keep watching.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the second Agency with Choice Town Hall meeting of this week. We're going to stay with the same agenda. So if you did join us yesterday, please know that it will look similar tonight as well. With that, we'll go ahead, I think, just for the sake of time and jump in and get started. We'll start with an introduction of Department of Human Services team members, as well as our partners at Alvarez and Marsal. In this meeting, if you are comfortable, please write your name, the town you reside, and the role that you have in the chat. Again, if you're comfortable doing so. So as you can see from the example, Kate, Sioux Falls mom. Again, only if you're comfortable doing that. Today, we're going to talk about some updates to the Agency with Choice services. We're also going to share current choices, services that are available today. And then you're going to get to learn more about how you can partner with us. And then we'll also take some time for questions and some ideas. Our goal really is to minimize disruption for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families, providing stable and reliable services to meet people's assessed needs. So before we jump in, I'll start with introductions for DHS. My name is Joey Uni. I'm the Director of the Division of Developmental Disabilities with the Department of Human Services. I'll turn it over then to Julie and Kate.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Hand. I am the Deputy Director of the Division of Developmental Disabilities.
Hi, my name is Kate. I am the HCBS Operations Manager here in Pierre.
Thank you both. Is Carrie on by chance? I don't want to miss her if she is. Not yet. Okay, thanks, Julie.
Not yet.
With that, then we'll turn it over to our partners at A&M.
Thanks, Joey. Hey, everyone. I am Erin Leviton. I am Managing Director at A&M. Really good to see some of you that I met during our assessment of the Family Support 360 and Shared Living program. Really happy to be back here, continuing to support South Dakota. And with me are Shivani and Ben, and if you guys would just please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Shivani Patel. I'm a Senior Director with A&M. It's been a pleasure to work with Joey and her team on Agency with Choice and a couple other things. And although I haven't had a chance to meet you guys yet, like Erin has, I'm looking forward to doing it soon. Thanks.
Everyone, I'm Ben. I'm an analyst with Alvarez and Marsal. And although I also have not had a chance to meet you all, I've had the pleasure of being on the other town halls, and it's good to be back here with you all again.
Thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and jump into the agenda. So before we get started, we are going to ask that if you're open to it, to please let us know what questions you have. What do you want to know? What do you want us to know at the Department of Human Services? So if you have a cell phone, you can turn your camera on and hover over that QR code, and it'll take you right to menti.com. If not, you can go to menti.com and enter that code. And then go ahead and put in your questions or things again that you want us to know at Department of Human Services. And then towards the end of our time together tonight, we'll review those. If you've started, please continue with the Menti. We're going to go ahead and proceed. We have lots of good content we want to share tonight, so we want to make sure we have time to fit that all in. We did host, in partnership with the A&M team, a survey for participants and family members, and so we did that through March 25th to April 10th, and there was about 117 people who completed that survey. As a result of that survey, we heard several things. And so just to recap briefly, we heard that not everyone understands the changes and what it means for them. And most people don't feel prepared for those changes. Most do not understand common law well. families prefer to hear from your family support coordinator and then from those of us at the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And we also heard that you want to receive information in different ways. So the three most preferred options of how to receive that information is email, one-on-one meetings, and town halls like this one. So in order to respond to that feedback, we wanted to make sure that we were clear about what we're going to do. So we're going to explain the changes today. And so if you don't feel like you understand those changes, or if you have other questions, you can reach out to your family support coordinator. That's what FSC means. Or you can also send us an email at ddd.update@state.sd.us. We're also sharing information regularly to keep you up to date. And so we want to make sure that you're feeling prepared about what is happening amongst all of the changes with Agency with Choice. We're also going to be explaining more details about common law today. And again, reaching out to your family support coordinator or to us at the division if you have any additional questions. We're also going to be sharing information as it's available through coordinators. We meet pretty frequently, actually weekly with them, so that they are up to date and confident with the changes and are able to answer any questions as they have them. And then we're going to continue at the Division of Developmental Disabilities to share information in multiple formats so that everyone is able to receive and understand that important information through those various channels. So we thought we'd start with just kind of an update about what is changing. So Agency with Choice is one way that people receiving Family Support 360 services manage their supports. There is going to be changes to this program this year in 2024. And so does this apply to my family? So it does if you're enrolled in Family Support 360 and are receiving services through LifeQuest, Dakota Milestones, Volunteers of America, Lifescape, or Center for Independence. And so there's a few changes that are important to know. All 5 of these providers that offer Agency with Choice services have told us at the Department of Human Services that they're going to stop providing these services. These providers are planning to stop their co-employer services, not other services that they might deliver. So in response to the decisions from those providers, the state is exploring ways that we can sustain Agency with Choice. We're exploring new South Dakota vendors, we're exploring national vendors, and we're also looking at additional supports for current providers. We're sharing information as we have it and are doing so in the most transparent way possible. When will my agency stop Agency with Choice? You might have heard that initially LifeQuest had planned to stop their services June 30th, 2024. They've extended that now to August 31st, 2024. Dakota Milestones, Volunteers of America, and Lifescape are all going to end their services in December of 2024. Center for Independence is going to end some of theirs for 9 employees, also in December of 2024. And the remainder of their employees will have until May of 2025. The bottom line is that while we're working hard to prevent disruption, people that use Agency with Choice, which is an employment management model, may not be able to keep assessing the supports as it is now. Ben, can you move forward, please? Oh, I'm sorry. So as I mentioned on the previous screen, Lifescape had originally notified the Department of Human Services that they were going to end in June. They've recently revisited that and have offered an extension through the end of August of 2024. This gives us a short-term 60-day extension to help support families through the summer, which we know is a really busy time. So again, this is a short-term extension to help people and families through the summer. If you're receiving Agency with Choice through any of the following providers, those dates that we've referenced previously, those are going to stay the same. So as we've said previously, enrolling in common law or looking to transition to shared living is still the safest option to avoid any disruption in services. You can begin enrolling in common law after your Agency with Choice services end. So again, right now, some things you can do is speaking with your family support coordinator to explore whether common law and shared living can be options for you. Also checking your emails, checking the Division of Developmental Disabilities website to receive updates about agency with choice, and then also visiting with your family support coordinator frequently about updates and any sort of planning. Sorry, Ben, can we go back just a minute? I don't know if there's anybody from Lifescape on that might want to add anything in this area. Okay, with that, I will turn it over to our partners at A&M.
Thanks, Joey. This is Erin again, part of the A&M team, and thought it might be helpful for you to understand, right? Why is it taking so long? Why haven't we collectively been able to come up with a new option for agency with choice? And I know, right? You hear we're working on it. Thought it might help to give you an idea of what does that mean, right? So that you can understand what's happening behind the scenes. When you look at this list, if there's a check on it, right, a green check, it means it's work that's been completed. The green dots are work that is happening right now and in various stages of progress. The two gray dots at the bottom are work we haven't done yet because you have to finish all the things that are in the green dot phase, right, to move forward with those. So what we've done so far are exploring, all of the options to continue with the agency with choice. And that started with meeting with all 5 of the current providers, really to understand from their perspective how we got here and whether there was any path for moving forward with them. And what their recommendations would be around building a sustainable program moving forward. Likewise, meeting with potential new providers, both local and national, to look for new people to come in and provide agency with choice. The next piece and where we're working, right, is making changes to the agency with choice model. We didn't get here, right, sort of out of nowhere. We know that there have been changes over time to federal rules that have really impacted the agency with choice program. And as family members, right, you saw that in the providers first limiting hours to 20 a week and then some to 10, right? And that's coming from changes in the federal landscape. And, what we've seen as we've looked across the country is that, South Dakota was a really early adopter of self-direction and has supported agency with choice. States who came later to providing self-direction options, many of them don't offer this. It's the majority of states don't. And so how can we modernize the program to make sure that it's sustainable and we don't sort of land back here, right? But that it works in the new environment. Along with that is developing a new rate that supports it, having new contract terms, getting the budget to support it, and then of course, updating the waiver. And I know Joey is going to talk about soon what that will look like and what you can expect and, how to engage and how we can hear your voices around understanding the waiver changes and whether you think they'll meet your needs. And then once all of that's done, of course, our federal partners at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have to approve it. They provide half of the funding and then signing up providers. So lots of work happening, many things on track, but there, is a time component to doing all of this. So I know we talked a little bit about this, but sort of what does that look like even a step deeper, right? We've talked about the first one, right? Talking to the current agency with choice providers, talking to a new local provider potentially in the state, meeting with national providers of both agency with choice and common law. Really looking at shared living and understanding who in the Family Support 360 program might be a good candidate for that program. We know it's not right for everybody, right? It's a program for adults, probably a program for adults who use more services. But we did do some analysis and figure out what families we thought might be good to explore this. We shared those names with family support coordinators to reach out and just talk about it as an option. there's a contract with Acumen for the pilot for common law. We've expanded that so that with it being currently the safest option, we wanted to make sure there was good capacity for Acumen to take on new people. Obviously, sharing information with families about common law. We recognize that the pilot was launched, and it was at a time where if families were happy with agency with choice and weren't looking to move to Acumen, you might not have had to learn about it. And so wanting to make sure all of that is out there and that you have a way to understand the option and how to enroll and what that looks like and how it's different than agency with choice. Partnering with the South Dakota Supporting Families Community of Practice to help families plan for summer. And Carrie is going to talk a little bit about that later. Certainly appreciate the partnership with LifeQuest to keep providing services throughout the summer. And you'll hear more about this, but really ready to launch a new work group to partner with families on solutions. And we'll be doing that right after these sessions. Just wanted to do one more call for names and partners.
All right. So kind of the next section we're going to go through is a common law overview. So we're going to just kind of take it back a little bit to the basics and just kind of go through common law and kind of what it is. So kind of self-directing through common law, the common law option means that you or your authorized representative, family member, or someone else you choose will be the employer of record rather than your agency with choice provider. This means that you are directly responsible for selecting and hiring your employees and managing your budget. A financial management service like Acumen will help you with this. So kind of what is the common law option to self-direct? So one of the biggest pieces of it is you get to pick the people who provide your services. And then who you or someone you designate are the employer of record. You complete the paperwork to hire and supervise them directly. You are responsible for paying your employees. DDD does, or the Division of Developmental Disabilities does pay the bill. And then you are responsible for managing your budget. I just, kind of really want to make this point really clear. You're not managing these tasks alone. The financial management service, Acumen is an example of that, helps you with these tasks. Also, your family support coordinator is a really good resource. That's kind of your first line of contact for most families, and that's kind of what their intent is. So all of the services that are available to self-direct under agency with choice are available to self-direct through common law. So agency with choice and common law have the same services. So respite care, companion care, personal care, and supported employment are those specific services. So the employer of record. So what is an employer of record? An employer of record is a person who employs staff. That's kind of the really short version. An employer of record takes full responsibility for all aspects of employment, including compliance, payroll, taxes, and benefits. So who can be an employer of record? It can be you, the recipient of services, an authorized representative, family member, friend, and really anyone you want to designate. There are a couple caveats to that, but we'll kind of cover one of those. A family member cannot be both the employer of record and an employee you hire to provide a service. Your family support coordinator can also not be the employer of record. So the next portion is a financial management service, or kind of a lot of times you'll see FMS, kind of that acronym. So what is a financial management service? An FMS is responsible for helping you with your employer-related tasks like legally hiring and paying staff. Acumen is DDD's fiscal management service for the common law option. So how will they help the employer of record? So the FMS will take care of the tax paperwork, new hire process, payroll, and including paying your employees their hourly wage and taxes and insurance. And then there's some other administrative tasks as well. But they really, one of the main intents that the FMS does is just a lot of that paperwork aspect to kind of make it a little easier for the families so they don't have to worry about that quite as much. So the next slide is just a really good overview of kind of what common law offers and what agency with choice offers. So it's a good side-by-side comparison of the two. So who is the employer of record? So with the agency with choice model, so that's the one with the current providers like LifeQuest, LifeScape, Dakota Milestones. So the employer of record there is the agency with choice provider. In common law, the employer of record is you. Who picks the people who will provide your services? So that would be your employee. With both models, that would be you. So there's choice in both models. Who hires the employee? The agency in the agency with choice model is the agency with choice provider. In the common law model, it's you with the help of the FMS to complete that paperwork aspect. Who manages the employee schedule? For both of the options, that would be you. And then who supervises the employee would also be you in both options. So how many hours can each employee work? So currently with the agency with choice model, it's up to 20 hours per week. With the common law model, you can go up to 40 hours per week. Who approves employee time? So currently with the agency with choice model, it's the family support coordinator. In the common law model, that would be you, with help from the FMS. So who manages the budget? In the agency with choice model, it'd be the family support coordinator. And in the common law model, it would be you with help from your family support coordinator. So who pays for the services? So for both options, the Division of Developmental Disabilities does pay for both options. So now we're kind of going to do a little bit of a round table. We have a couple of family members on the line with us tonight. We have Melissa Ricketts, Marilyn Knerk, and Carrie Geppert, who will be kind of sharing some of their experiences with the common law model. So they're going to really kind of give you a firsthand feedback on kind of what it's been like, some tips and tricks that they've learned along the way, and then, just kind of getting to learn a little bit about their story. So I think we'll just kind of start with introductions. If Melissa, Carrie, we'll start with Melissa and we'll go to Carrie and then Marilyn.
It helps if I unmute. Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Ricketts. My family and I, we live in South Dakota. So a little bit of a background. Our son, Benjamin, he is 13. He was diagnosed with autism around 5 years old. And so he's been dealing with that along with ADHD, and he also has severe verbal apraxia. So he is unable to verbally communicate. So when we going through the process of finding daycares, obviously daycares are very, very hard, difficult to find with a normal child, but when you have a child with special needs, it's even harder to find that person that's going to be patient enough to work with your child. And we went through multiple different daycares, went from in-home to a center, where obviously that obviously didn't work, where he was bullied. We pulled him, went through 3 daycares in 3 weeks, to the point where we almost was looking to have one of us quit our jobs just for us to stay home. So we end up finding a great in-home, but then we end up having to come across the issue of him aging out of daycare. So here we are. We are part of the common law program. A little bit of background.
All right, Carrie, do you want to jump in there with your story?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Carrie Geppert here. I'm actually an employee of the Division of Developmental Disabilities. I'm the Family Advocacy Coordinator. But I'm just a parent, right? We're all just family members and parents. And so I actually have 5 children of my own. My husband and I have 9 children together. And one of our daughters has Down syndrome. And so you'll often hear me tell stories about Kashmane or Nay. And so Nay for short. So if you hear me use both, it's the same person. And so for Kashmane, she's 17. In a T school district, Melissa. I didn't know that before. So we got that in common. And so we have the same concerns as Melissa had, where we kind of aged out of the child care system. I work full time, and so it was like, what services or supports can we utilize? We use a lot of integrated supports with other family members helping. But one of the services that we really rely on in Family Support 360 is companion care, especially during the summertime when those extended or non-school days where we have extended hours that are not typical support needs of ours. And so I had been on Agency with Choice previously and have recently moved over to common law. And so that's we're going to share a little bit about that today.
All right, Marilyn, if you could give just a little bit of background.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Knirk, and my daughter Leah has an anoxic brain injury and requires 24/7 care. And I also work full time, and so the common law was a good solution for us because we needed more than 20 hours a week for a provider. So yeah, and I'll share more later.
All right. Well, thank you guys. So I guess, one of my questions for you guys is, so why did you choose common law? Melissa, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit on why you ended up choosing common law. And then, I know some of you have kind of been on it a little bit longer than others. So kind of like, why did you choose it and how long have you been using it?
Well, like I alluded to before, it was a couple years ago, we ended up coming across the issue where our son was going to turn 13 and he was going to age out of daycare. And we literally did not have a choice. We did not have a backup because he cannot stay home by himself because of his disability. So multiple phone calls to state senators and state representatives, I ended up getting a hold of Shawnee with the state, and she asked if my family would like to test pilot the common law program, and I said yes. Like I said, didn't have a choice, so we went ahead and tested it, and it's been working great ever since. So we have not had a bad experience with it. So it's been a great help to us.
Yeah, and I know Melissa's family's been one of the very, very first, like either one or two to kind of start with it. So they've been on it longer than most families. So what about Carrie or Marilyn? Kind of why did you choose it?
Yeah, so I actually am part of that first group. My service provider is LifeQuest, and so I had learned about the common law model back when it was first introduced, and just some training opportunities that we had as family members to just learn more about a fiscal management system and acumen. And yeah, learned about it and left it there, right? And so then didn't use it until I really, really needed it. So as soon as the news came out that some of these providers were going to be ending that support service, that we were like, oh, it's go time, right? And so I didn't want to lose my opportunity for supports over the summer. And so I felt like this is my option. And so now it's been extended until, August. And so I really appreciate that for other families. I think that's a great accommodation for those families that need that service over the summertime. So, but I had already switched before I found that news out. And so I am I am brand new. I am brand new. So I'm in the infancy stage. So I'm looking forward to Marilyn and Melissa kind of being my mentors through this. So so that's the why behind switching to common law is we really need that support over the summer.
We've been using it since October, and we started using it more or less because we were kind of forced into it, um, because we couldn't get providers to care for Leah. And so, as a recommendation from our family support coordinator, she's recommended that we used common law, and I was pretty hesitant because I thought it was going to be a lot of work, and it really hasn't been. It's been going really well.
Excellent. So thank you guys for sharing. I know this kind of makes everyone uncomfortable, but we do appreciate it a lot. So I think for the next question is kind of like just in general, what's your experience been with common law? Maybe some of the things you like about it, or some of the things that you think families should know, kind of if they were to choose that option. So Melissa, if you want to go first.
Probably one of the most probably the first thing when we started the process of it, obviously was the paperwork. You're gonna get, you get this humongous stack of paperwork that you have to fill out, not only you, but your employee. And we went through it as best we could, and and it's just it's a work in progress. And when we send off all the paperwork to Acumen, and they've always been very responsive coming back. They've sent us emails back saying, oh, you're missing information on this page, or we need you to fill out this on this page. And with as much paperwork as you are going to be filling out for this program, you're bound to miss something. But the team at Acumen has always been very, 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 very good at responding back to email. That's really how I communicated with them. They were like within a day, they're responding back to saying, yep, we got your paperwork. Can you please fill this part out? Or we need you to change this part. And once, they got all the paperwork done, got one thing that kind of shocked me a little bit about it was having to obtain an EIN as a sole proprietor. That was a little bit of a shock, but still obtained that. That was not a big issue. Got that obtained, and then it was literally just, it was go time from there. And our son is loving the summer. This is his first whole, this will be his second summer home with our nanny. We call her our nanny, but we were very fortunate to have her run across her. She's actually used to be his para. He was in 4th grade, so she's very familiar with him. And so we started talking about this program, and I wanted her to nanny for us. I sat down with the special ed director, and I said, actually technically her boss during school year, and I said, this is what we want her to do over the summer, and through the school year, would you be able to work with us? And special ed director was very, very good. She said, yep, we will do that. She adjusts her schedule, so she does not do busing in the afternoons, so she's able to leave school and come pick up our son and take him home. And she sits with him at home, and then over the summer, they're able to they go to the zoo, and they go to pool, and they go bowling, and they go karts, and they go everywhere. I mean, it's really, there's really not any change or any difference between respite companion care to this. You just get more hours. Now, when we were told that it was only going to be 40 hours, that was actually when you work full time, you technically need more than 40 hours a week. We need about 50 or 55. My husband and I sat down and we discussed that, you know what, we did not wanted him home. We wanted him home with her. So he's here. So we agreed that any hours over 40, we would pay. So if, you know, anytime we have anywhere from an hour to maybe 5-6 hours a week of overtime. So we pay her the overtime for her to stay. So that was something we worked out on the background with our tax person. And so we have that, and everything else just seems to flow real easily. There isn't anything once you get the paperwork done, there really isn't a lot of communication. The approving of time is very slick. She has an app on her phone. She clocks in when she picks them up, and then when we get home, she clocks out. I go on my phone into the website and I approve her time and sent in, and it's done. I maybe spend like 5 minutes a week approving her time, and that's it. It is very slick, very easy.
All right. Thanks a lot, Melissa. I appreciate you sharing so much. Carrie, do you have some experience? Well, your experience is pretty fresh in your brain, I think, right now. So
Yeah, I think Melissa's way smarter than me. I have to tell you were way better at the paperwork than I was. And so yeah, so when I reach out to my family support coordinator has been a huge help, right? So I reached out and said, gosh, we got to do this. Like, this is going to need to happen fairly soon. And she made sure that I had access to the enrollment packet. So I received an enrollment packet for myself as the employer. And then we hired our oldest daughter, that's 26, as the employee. And so I sent on the employee packet because at that time they didn't know who the employees were going to be. So that is a responsibility just to make sure that the employee has the packet, enrollment packet. And so I filled out mine. And what I really appreciated about the paperwork was most of it was electronic, right? So I didn't have to print anything out and sign it or, snail mail it back. And so I was able to, there's just one form that needs a wet signature, but all the other forms are electronically signed. So I really appreciated that. My daughter filled out hers and sent it back to me, and I sent both packets back to Acumen together. Within a few days, they had, and this happened several times, but the first time they told me I had missing information, they sent it back, and I think it was like a day later, or maybe even the same day. And so they said, but they were very, like Melissa said, very specific about page 2 and this spot. Like, they were very clear about what I missed. And so I had to do that a few times. But that was because apparently there's a video out there that tells you exactly how to fill out the paperwork. And if I would have just watched the video, I wouldn't have made any of those mistakes, right? Because I could actually pause the video and fill that section out, like right as I'm watching the video, and I wouldn't have missed anything. So from the time that we submitted our finalized full paperwork to the time that we got a response was about 4 days. And they sent a response back that said, hey, well, they sent it right away. I got a message saying that they received it, right? And then 4 days later, I got an email that said, it's been accepted and approved, which meant that I filled out all of the paperwork correctly. And so I was really excited, but then, so my coordinator and I were talking, and I said, okay, I got this, and I forwarded her the email and said, okay, is this what I need to get started? And there's a second video, it's called DCI, and that's the technology, that the app that you download on your phone. There's a separate video for how do you submit your time, and so some of that, the management side of it, the technology side. And I got to tell you guys, I'm not going to lie, I saw 58 minutes and I was like, whew, I don't sit still for 58 minutes. That's a long video. But I played Candy Crush, and I listened, and I followed directions. And then I literally, in the video, it said, you will get a good to go letter. And so I was like, ooh, I got it. Like, everything's been accepted letter, but what about the good to go letter? So I reached out to my family support coordinator and I said, is this the good to go letter? And um and she said, oh, I'm not sure, let me find out, right? And so that she communicated with Acumen and asked the questions of like, when should we receive it? Because in the video it does say that your login information will come with the good to go letter. So I couldn't move forward really until I had that letter, because it contained all of like my user ID, my password, everything that I needed to know. And that was probably another week. So from start to finish of when I got my good to go letter was less than 3 weeks. And so I got that letter, and my daughter got a separate letter that she had a separate good to go because she has different login information. And so she downloaded the app, I downloaded the app. You can see like your budget and everything is right in the app. So you know where you stand fiscally with your budget. If I need to request more hours, you know, if I'm getting close to that budget, I certainly can work with my family support coordinator and talk through like why I would need more hours and what it looks like, and make that request. And then my family support coordinator and I actually have made just an agreement that we will I will just print out a monthly report, and I think you guys might talk about that later, but there is an ability to say where you're at with your budget and like a monthly expense report of where you're at and where things are at. And so I've just made an agreement with my coordinator that I will just send that to her monthly so that she also is aware of where we're at in the budget and how the utilization record, right, of how often are we using it. So we are going to use companion care for the first time this week. And so I will stay tuned because I will let you know how it goes. I have not actually entered in the time, but Marilyn, you can share a little bit more about that with your experience.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've got much more to add. Melissa and Carrie have covered it pretty well with their experience on what we went through when we first started. I think it took us a couple of weeks till we got our good to go letter because we were missing information on our enrollment form. And had I watched the videos, I would have known what I was missing or how to fill it out. So that is one thing I would really recommend, is that if you're going to do this, when you fill out the application, do watch the video at the same time. So it was a good idea, Carrie. I don't know if I have a lot more to add, but it is very easy for the employees to clock in and out. And it is very easy for the employer to approve all the timesheets. It takes maybe 5 minutes a week for the employer to do on our part. And I guess I don't know if I have anything else to add because you guys covered it pretty well.
Excellent, excellent. It's good to hear all the kind of tips and tricks. And I know one of them that I did here and there was watch the videos. So that seems like a pretty common theme kind of throughout. So we did. So is there any other tips, tricks that you have for families if they're considering enrolling in common law with Acumen?
I must have missed the video because I didn't know that there was a video. Katie must have not gave me that tip when I was going through this process. I guess probably the biggest thing is when I went through, you know, I kept thinking in the back of my mind, what's best for my family, what's best for my son and our situation when we were filling this out. And I kept thinking about that the time when I was filling this whole thing out. So it didn't really bother me how much time it was going to take me or what I had to fill out or what I had to do it, because I knew that this was going to be the best option for us to get this program started. Along with the budget, obviously, one tip is when you get everything signed up, it's going to be, everything's going to run smoothly. If you do run out of funds, your employee will not be able to enter any timing. It'll say, if they enter in time, but you don't have enough funds to cover that amount of time. So like if they want to enter in 2 hours, but you only have funds to cover an hour and a half, it will not allow the employee to enter that time in. So it'll give them an error. So every time that happens, see, my nanny says, okay, we're running out of funds. We're out of funds. Okay, fine. So then I know I have to reach out to my family support coordinator and tell her, hey, we're out of funds. So then she has to send that into the state, and then that whole process has to go through. And then once that gets done, then gets approved, then we can go back in and they can start entering their times. Now, if she just keeps track of her time, like on a piece of paper or a notepad, and then once the budget gets approved and is in there, then she just goes back in and adds her time later. So that is one tip. I had another one. I can't remember what the one was. But probably the big thing, if you know of somebody, or if you're in a position where you don't know who to have look at, watch your son or anything like that, watch your child, and they're already in a school and they're already in special needs, talk to your school, talk to your special ed department, and just see, hey, would anybody in the class or anybody in that department want to care for a child for the summer? They're going to be the best person because they work with them every day and be able to work on those skills over the summer in addition to during the school year.
Carrie or Marilyn, do you have anything to add?
I just would say real quick that, I've had a lot of families ask me now that I've switched to common law, if there does become an opportunity to have agency with choice in the future, would I switch back? And right now, I don't really see a reason why I would need to. So far, everything that I've started feels very user friendly. But the answer is maybe, right? Like we might have that option in the future. And so I would just encourage everyone that's maybe considering or thinking about it, go ahead and switch. Just switch over now, get it set up, get it started. And if it works for your family, great. And if another option for agency with choice is proposed in the future, you will have the option to go back. And so I would just encourage for anybody that's maybe a little bit on the fence, that go ahead and get the process started and just try it. I think that for a lot of families, it helps with that barrier of the 20 hours a week, especially with summer care, right? Like a lot of us were having to find 2 different providers if they had to go over that 20 hours a week. And so it is a really great resource and option. And there's no harm, no foul. If you don't like it, you can maybe eventually switch back. So that's my tip.
I'm not sure I've got a lot to add because Melissa and Carrie have once again covered it pretty well. But we've really enjoyed it. Like I said in the beginning, I was very hesitant to use it, but it's actually turned out to be a blessing. So, and I'll echo what Carrie said, just go for it and do it. So once you get through the paperwork, it's pretty easy, pretty manageable.
All right. Well, thank you guys, each of you, for contributing, and y'all did a great job. So now I think we're going to open it up for a few questions for our round table on a flat screen. But one of the first ones we had was, is the packet, and this kind of was answered in the comments, but I'll just kind of read it out loud to kind of get us started. But is the packet as extensive for the employees as it is for the family or employer of record? And so kind of the employee packet is a little more extensive than the employer packet. And then the employee packet has a lot of pages, but not all of them need to be completed. They will ask for more private information like social security card, bank account information, etc. But my nanny didn't find it too extensive. I think whenever we've been shown the employee forms and the employer forms, and there did seem to be a few more employee forms. So that kind of was something that I noticed with that, but it wasn't a whole lot more, maybe like one or two. So any other questions for our group?
I was just gonna say, it's the typical employee, like paperwork you would fill out if you started a new job, right? So the extra paperwork is gonna be like your I-9, your W-4, one of those Ws, right? So it's that type of paperwork that's the extra. And then of course they wanna, avoid a check. That was a tip trick. Here we go. My daughter does not use checks. And so they wanted to attach a voided check. And so she had to go to the bank and get a counter check because I don't know if you know this, but there's a whole generation of people that don't even know how to write a check. So if your employer is of that generation or employee is of that generation, that just like maybe just point that out like, hey, you might need to go to your bank and get just a counter check to attach. But that was also very easy because it was just like starting a new job. So that was the extra paperwork that she had to fill out.
All right. Thanks for that, Carrie. So we did get another question in the chat of who determines the budget. Typically for who determines it, it's usually a cooperation between the family support coordinator and the family. And so they kind of would determine the budget, and then the family support coordinator would kind of submit the referral to us to get kind of started with Acumen. And it's okay to come off mute if you guys want to talk.
I have a question if I could. We currently have 2 respite providers and it doesn't sound like we maybe use as much service as like Carrie and Melissa. My question is, one of our respite providers is a high school senior. She'll be going to college, in August and probably not going to be providing care for us after that. I haven't asked her that, but I'm kind of assuming. Is it possible to keep, and I'm sorry too if I missed this in the beginning, but is it possible to keep her, we're with LifeQuest, is it possible to keep her on with LifeQuest through August and use our other, or go to common law with our other respite provider? Is that possible, or can you not use 2 services?
You can't use both at the same time. So it would have to be one or the other. So you'd have to be either all agency with choice or all common law.
Okay, I thought that would probably be the case. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so one more question here in the chat. Without the 20-hour weekly limit on hours worked, will it be simple to increase my son's budget to cover up to 40 hours weekly? So that's a really good conversation to have with your family support coordinator. They have a better idea of kind of what your family situation looks like and can kind of guide you. Kind of your best guidance is probably going to come from them on maybe the route you should take or, kind of take together.
And Kate, I just wanted to add something to, on top of with the employee, you choose the employee. You also choose the pay. You also choose their wage of what you want to pay them. And so obviously when we had respite care, obviously, and with my husband and I, we value our sitters. We don't have very many. I think we had 2. And Andrea, our nanny, is number 2. And so especially caring for a child with special needs, we value that, and we know that's not easy. So whatever you feel they deserve as a wage, that's what you can provide to them. Also, if they're on a wage for a certain amount of time and you want to increase that, you can get a form to increase that. We did that earlier this year to increase for a wage increase. It is very easy to do. You just fill out a form, you send it in, email it in, and it's done.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback, Melissa. I think that's the first time I've heard kind of that aspect and that kind of route of increasing pay and kind of what that looks like. So thank you for that. And if you guys do have questions, you can sure say them or put them in the chat. I think there'll be some time at the end for questions as well. But if you have any questions for these three ladies, I would definitely get your questions in while you can. Okay. Well, Ben, if you want to move us on to the next slide.
So as part of my role at the division is, I mentioned earlier, family advocacy coordinator. And so I love to have direct contact with families and be able to answer any questions or talk through maybe some charting the life course tools to help each family maybe problem solve their specific scenario. I know sometimes on these calls, you don't want to ask your question, or it's, you know, very public and you might have a very personal experience that you would like to talk through with someone. And so we are actually going to start what's called common law office hours. And so starting Monday night from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time, 3 to 5 Mountain Time, we're going to open up a Zoom link, and it's just me on the other side, and just going to be available to talk through common law, what your questions are, maybe, you know, help you kind of problem solve using the Charting the Life course framework. And so if you are interested, you don't need to register ahead of time. You can just click on that link and I'll be hanging out. If you want to grab a cup of coffee, I know it's in the evening, but some people, coffee doesn't bother in the evening. So you can just hang out with me and we can chat about your personal experience or your concerns, and we can just like walk through it and talk through it. So that'll be Mondays from 4 to 6 p.m. And then we're going to do it again on Wednesday. So if you have a lunch break, 12 to 2 is when we're going to do it for our Central Time. And then that would be 11 to 1 for our Mountain Time friends. And so that will be for the next several weeks. We're just going to open those Zoom links up for you and just hop on, and we can just visit more about your specific questions.
All right, so the next section is kind of some common themes or common questions or concerns we've kind of heard on a pretty regular basis. So we're just kind of trying to debunk some of the myths that might be out there. So we have about eight different myths, and we're just kind of going to go through them. We'll just start with number 1. So if I do not have the right documentation or service notes, I will lose services. So if you do not have the right documentation or service notes, you will not lose services. You should work with your employees to correct the service notes and speak with your family support coordinator if you need a little bit more assistance or guidance of kind of what those notes might need to look like. They would definitely be your first stop to kind of ask those questions. But once again, you won't lose services if your service notes are not correct. So number 2, if I do not have the right documentation or service notes, I will be committing Medicaid fraud. So it's pretty common. We're all human. Mistakes happen. So a mistake may occasionally occur. An honest mistake is not considered fraud. But if you do it purposefully and repeatedly, it could be. So if you make a mistake and do not have the right documentation, just work with your family support coordinator and employee to correct the documentation. Once again, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and that really would not be considered fraud. It usually has to be kind of a repetitive action that kind of occurs over time. So I have to sign over power of attorney to the FMS or Acumen. You do not sign over power of attorney for all affairs to the FMS. There's a form you will complete, the SD 2108, that references power of attorney. This power of attorney is limited to allowing Acumen to pay employee taxes on your behalf, not for anything else. So there are multiple types of power of attorney. Some are related to healthcare and others are related to business. The type of power of attorney being referenced in that form SD 2108 is limited to tax filings related to the employees that the employer of record hires. I have to pay for my own services. So the Division of Developmental Disabilities is actually the one that pays for all costs related to Family Support 360 services. So you as the person receiving services do not pay the service costs out of pocket. You will be given a budget or kind of work to formulate a budget with your family support coordinator. You have to manage that budget and make sure that you can pay for your services out of that budget. Your family support coordinator is definitely will help you with this, and they also are kind of that one that kind of helps you develop what that budget might look like. I have to pay for employees' taxes. You do not pay for your employees' taxes. The Division of Developmental Disabilities pays for all costs related to a Family Support 360 service. However, employee taxes must be calculated on top of hourly wages as part of your budget. Your FMS will help you with this. These costs will come directly out of your budget. I will have to pay more income taxes at the end of the year because I'm an employer. So common law does not impact the employer of record's personal taxes. My budget is smaller in common law than an agency with choice. So your budget should remain relatively the same. It should really remain pretty close. There is a workman's comp coverage with Acumen or the common law model. But if you work with your family support coordinator, you should be able to adjust that budget so it shouldn't really affect it. I cannot be the guardian and the common law employer on behalf of my child. A guardian can be the employer of record on behalf of their child. Like a parent, a guardian cannot be the employer of record if they are also an employee. So this is because the same, excuse me. So this is because the same person would submit and approve hours. So that would violate Medicaid guidelines if that were to be the case. So those are the myths. And I think, I'm not sure who I'm turning it over to now. Is this?
Carrie, are you comfortable taking this one?
Me again. Yeah, absolutely. The Department of Human Services is part of a national movement, and we also have a state team called the Supporting Families Community of Practice. We are just one division and department amongst many. We have the Department of Ed involved. We have community partners such as South Dakota Parent Connection, Statewide Family Engagement Center, a lot of our community support providers and case management agencies, along with, most importantly, family members and self-advocates. And so as we have grown in our community of practice, we have determined that in-person regional meetings are the best way to connect, with a virtual option to attend as well. So we met last week in Pierre and just got family feedback on what do you need for families. So not specific to Family Support 360, but really what do you need in your life? Maybe there's a support that you have that there's no support that exists for that need. And so we're inviting you to participate in some of these regional community of practice meetings to help us really identify what are your support needs. Help us develop some priorities and key efforts. This is a statewide initiative, right? So it's not just our department, it's all of our community partners and family members and self-advocates coming together collectively to really collaborate on new ways to support families. And so we would like you to participate if your time allows, either virtually or in person, to help us really develop some priorities and key efforts for this next fiscal year. And then also, just connect, right? So we all need that connection and networking, just to sit in a room, even tonight, just being able to visit with Melissa and Marilyn, and just like have that shared common interests, right? We're just trying to do the best for our loved ones that we can do. And so there is a meeting coming up next week. It's on April 30th in Sioux Falls from 5:30 to 7:30. It's at the Wagner Health Library. And if you don't know where that's at, it's on the Sanford campus off of 22nd Street. But I could be happy if you wanted to shoot me an email or give me a call. We certainly, or hop on that common law open office hours next week. We can make sure that you have all the information. There's also a registration, just because we are serving a light supper. So if you could just register if you think you are going to attend, so that we can make sure that we have enough food for everyone. And so that is going to be dropped in the link. The link will be dropped in the chat here. And we will also resend information out to the listserv. So if you are not already a part of the Family Support 360 listserv, there is also a Supporting Families Community of Practice listserv, DDD events, and Chart and Life course events. So if you, and I think that we'll drop that link also to how to join the listserv. If you just click on that link, you can check boxes of what type of information you want to receive. And so make sure for sure that you check the Family Support 360 listserv. But then if you're interested in the Supporting Families Community Practice, we would really love your input and for you to share your lived experience and help us create solutions to those support needs. We will also be hosting in Aberdeen and Sturgis coming up in May. And so we'll make sure that we get that information out. You should receive that through your family support coordinators. I know I always receive it from mine. But then also, if you just kind of a checks and balance, if you're also on the listserv, we'll make sure you get that information. So thank you.
So we also promised we'd talk a little bit about how you can get involved if you're interested in partnering on self-direction with the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And so we are forming a work group that's going to help us to advise the state on self-direction specifically. So if you'd like to participate in the work group, please email ddd.update@state.sd.us. Information about the first meeting will be shared after you sign up. And again, work group participants will decide how often this work group meets after that initial kickoff meeting. And real quick before we move on, if you haven't yet shared any feedback or questions or things you'd like DHS to know, please go ahead and log into that Menti poll. We'd like to hear from you if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. Other ways that you'll be able to partner with us is we are going to be completing a waiver amendment. So because of the changes to Agency with Choice, the Division of Developmental Disabilities does have to amend the Family Support 360 waiver. And so as part of that, when we amend a waiver, it means we work with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And there's a very specific carved out process for that. And so it starts with a public comment period. And so the first step is really that the state publishes that notice about the amendment. And then there's a 30-day public comment period. And then the state responds and summarizes each of the comments that's received during that 30-day period. And that is all submitted to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And so through that process, there'll be more opportunities for you to partner with us. And so in addition to the standard CMS requirements around that public comment period, we'd like to hear from you. So we'll be sharing information about the waiver amendment by email and also on our website. And we're also going to be hosting a public comment forum to share information about any changes. And then again, is an opportunity to take live public comment at that time as well. Ben, can you move forward the slides, please? Thank you. And I think we're at the point of questions. And so I don't know if there's been any additional questions. I believe one came in around if there is an impact to Social Security income. And so specifically if a person receiving services opts to use common law, and there would not be, because that does not impact the person receiving services. it doesn't impact any income for them. So there should be no impact at all. If a potential employee is receiving SSI, I would recommend that they speak with their tax preparer perhaps, and inquire about if that would have any potential impact there. But for the person receiving services, there would be none. I'm looking in the chat. It looks like there's a lot of good information about how to connect through community of practice. Thank you guys for posting that up there. Ben, for getting the Menti back up if there's additional questions. There's a question, so there will be a whole redesign of the family support waiver, not just finding new agency with choice providers. So the changes to agency with choice are so significant that it requires an amendment to the waiver. So how services are defined and delivered is a part of a waiver, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services do a thorough review of that. And anytime there's a change from what they've approved, a state is required to amend that. And so because of the significant changes to agency with choice, an amendment is required. Other questions? Okay, if you think of some, don't be shy, put them in the chat, and we'll be sure to follow up as well. In addition, we will have additional opportunities to provide you'll have additional opportunities to provide feedback. So I think, is there another Menti poll, Ben, that folks can add additional feedback?
We just have the one Menti poll, but please feel free to submit any feedback that you might have through that poll.
Thank you. I see two new questions in the chat. So the first one from 431853 is, what would redesign look like? And so in particular, we're talking about agency with choice as it is now. As we've been sharing tonight and in previous updates, agency with choice right now is operated by 5 community support providers. They're ending their contracts. The waiver right now identifies that's how agency with choice is operated in South Dakota. Because that is changing, we have to identify what that looks like and submit a waiver. The next question says, in an earlier town hall, it was mentioned that people could move to the choices waiver. However, I believe that it's only available to people 21 or older. Is there any possibility of allowing 18 to 20-year-olds on that waiver? That's a great question. So the choices waiver is adult services. And so it is available to people 21 and older. And so there would not at this point be an exception to that requirement of the waiver. Other questions? Do we have anything in the Menti that we haven't answered?
Nothing new there.
Okay, thanks, Erin. We can go on to a few reminders. If you have any questions about agency with choice or common law, please reach out to your family support coordinator. They're a great resource, and I know how valuable they are to families. Also, please check your email for communication directly from the Division of Developmental Disabilities. If you're not receiving emails directly from us, please email, again, ddd.update@state.sd.us, or let your family support coordinator know, and we'll be sure to get your email added so that you're getting that direct communication from us. We're also planning some upcoming listening tours. So a new schedule for those is being designed right now and will be shared very soon. Those listening tours are going to occur throughout the state. So We are working to get that out as soon as possible. We're also posting all resources on our website. So save the page, visit it frequently. It is where the most up-to-date and current and accurate information is around agency with choice. And as you can see on the screen, that is the page link. I'm not sure, Ben, or if somebody can copy that and put it in the chat so folks can snag that too. But there's a lot of great resources there. There's information, previous recorded town halls. This recording will be placed there. There's also lots of training and resources around acumen, shared living, lots of good content there. Any other questions, thoughts? Don't forget, if you're interested in being a part of that work group, to let us know. Send your interest if you want to partner with us around self-direction to ddd.update@state.sd.us, and we'll be sure to get you included in the next steps. I just read Bridget's comment. I don't know if she dropped off, but that's a nice comment. She's dropping off to do some other things, but wanted to just say thanks for the presentation and the information that's shared. The graphics are helpful, and the way the questions are answered. The myth versus truth information. Yeah, we've used that a couple times, and I think that's a really good way to kind of talk through what we're hearing or what we might think about something versus what's factual. So thank you. Any other comments or questions? Well, a few of us will stay on the line in case there's any other questions, but otherwise, if you don't have questions, you're free to, you found a few extra minutes in your day. But for those of us that will hang on the line in case there's other questions or comments as well. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Joey, there's a new question in the chat.
Thank you. Yes, it sure will, Tina. So that information is going to be a part of this recording, and so that can be pulled from there as well.
And then we'll get it posted to that website, the Agency with Choice website too. And then I think Josh had a question as well that we haven't talked about.
Okay, my provider is a CNA who works for senior citizens and so. Oh, perfect. Yeah, Josh, go out and explore that with your family support coordinator, and look at whatever your best options are, and then make the choice that will fit best for you. Any other questions? Okay, if you're still on, we'll work to make sure that the recordings and the other resources are on the website. And again, that's the best place to go for up-to-date information. Thank you. Have a great evening.